Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside. Hello, everybody. Bethany Dotson, relationship coach and trauma sensitive yoga therapist for high achieving professional women who struggle with romantic relationships, specifically attracting on repeat, unavailable, narcissistic, or even addicted partners. Identifying as having a broken picker, if you will, choosing poorly. And this has been going on for basically her entire adult life. So, I want to talk to you about how to overcome the loneliness after leaving your ex. And really, I'm going to talk about in more on a broad term how to overcome the feeling of loneliness. So, I work a lot with women who are coping with their feelings of loneliness and feeling like something is wrong with them and feeling separate from other people. All of this is rolled into one in a number of unhealthy ways. They're temporary. It's like putting a Band-Aid on. They're temporary fixes, but they don't address and really overcome the root issue. So you may be coping with feeling lonely by keeping yourself extremely busy. By staying chronically busy, you may be working in a career environment that is extremely taxing emotionally, that is competitive, that you feel like you're never getting ahead or you can't win. You may be, when you're not at work, or if you have your own business, you may be working with extremely taxing clients. You may be with friends or family who are draining and negative, and you feel like you have to take care of other people's issues. Or when you're home by yourself, you look for things to fill your time so that you don't have to sit still. Because, in my experience, professionally and personally, the moment that you sit still, all the feelings start to come up to the surface. And human beings are wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So, chronic busyness is one way you may be avoiding this. Another way that I see people perpetuating that lonely feeling, that feeling like something is wrong with them, is by isolating. And obviously, this would only add to feeling lonely. Most people tend to isolate for two main reasons. The biggest reason is their belief systems. And we're going to talk about this in a second. BS stands for your belief systems. It also stands, in a more blunt term, your inner bullshit. Basically, the stories or the beliefs that you have about yourself and around other people. And trauma from your past, unfortunate circumstances from your past, tend to mark you in your brain, meaning it tends to leave an imprint in your brain so that your neurons in your brain fire in a certain way to try to protect you, and your body tries to protect you from further pain. Your brain and your body are very integral in the trauma that you've had. They work together, although most people just want to focus up here. There's a whole lot going on down here, though. So you may be isolating because you believe that something's wrong with you, or you feel so much shame for your current situation in life. And the other thing that causes people to isolate is a sense of control. If you've been betrayed in your love life, you may find that initially it's safer for you to wall yourself off and not really have a lot of contact with other people, because subconsciously or somewhere in your psychology, you're afraid of what other people will think about you. You're basically afraid of being judged or afraid of rejection or abandonment. When you're afraid of what other people think about you, it's often not the fear of what other people think about you. It's more of the judgment that you have towards yourself. So if you fear other people judging you, most of the time, this is because actually behind closed doors, when you're all by yourself, you are really seriously criticizing yourself, judging yourself, self loathing, hating yourself. And if you've had a narcissistic partner and you spend any time on the internet researching narcissistic behavior, one term that you may have heard of is projection. And common form of projection that you may or may not have experienced. If your ex accused you of cheating, what do we know about that? 9 times out of 10 is actually the partner who is cheating, not the person he's blaming. So, whenever you are afraid of other people judging you, it is really your own projection of your self judgment. Isolating will only perpetuate your feelings of loneliness, and it's only going to worsen the feelings and the belief systems of something's wrong with me. By the way, just to give you some context, notwithstanding if you are experiencing loneliness after leaving a very chaotic relationship, there's a famous saying, the devil that we don't know, meaning the unknown, the life after you leave your ex, is a lot more scary than the devil that you do. So a lot of people, and this I've seen hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands, probably a million times over the course of my career, is that people will talk themselves into settling because staying with an unhealthy partner, taking abuse, hoping that it gets better. They'll talk themselves into staying because the pain of leaving and facing those feelings of sadness, of anger, of abandonment, of the unknown in her mind feels too scary, too great. So, the same way that you may have talked yourself into failure by staying in an unhealthy relationship, you will likely do that anyway, even if you leave the relationship. And that talking yourself into failure, talking yourself into settling will continue to keep you feeling lonely. So, an example of this, I get a lot of women who comment on posts or my social media content that they've given up on love. They've had so many failed relationships in their past, and they've just decided, I'm just going to be a workaholic and I'm not going to open myself up to any type of connection because I don't trust myself and I don't trust people. This is a common response, but in my experience, this does not heal your trauma. It just continues to re traumatize you because feeling lonely and isolated only fuels that belief that something's wrong with me. And we're wired for connection, like it or not. Babies die if they don't have enough connection. And it's shown in research that if you have chronic feelings of loneliness, this actually shortens your lifespan. Feeling lonely on a daily or regular basis is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, even if you're a non smoker, even if you work out and eat healthy and take good care of yourself. Loneliness increases your risk of heart attack by 25%. It increases your risk of dementia by 50% as you get older. So, the more and more research shows that we are wired for connection. So, how do you open yourself up to connection when you have been hurt in the past and you feel lonely? How do you overcome that feeling of loneliness? So, the first thing that you have to do, and this is one of the very first things that we do inside Break the Cycle, is really overhaul your BS, your belief systems, or your inner bullshit. It's very, very beneficial to work with a trained professional who is trauma informed, especially if you have past unhealthy relationships. All of your relationships follow a very distinct pattern. And really, especially if you have childhood trauma, you had a parent or a caregiver who was unavailable for you in some way, anger management issues, addiction issues, you had a lot of shame or even sexual abuse in your childhood. You don't have to have big T trauma like abuse or sexual assault in your past to have trauma that holds you back in relationship. There's also a thing called little t trauma, which is what a lot of people have that we work with. And this is repeated psychological manipulation, gaslighting, criticisms, put downs over a prolonged period of time that happens inside the context of a close, intimate, or interpersonal relationship. So if you're with somebody and you obviously expect to feel loved and accepted and supported, and you constantly feel like you're going crazy, that leaves a really deep hole inside that can warp the trajectory of your life. And it warps how you perceive people, it warps your belief systems. And you really need to, first and foremost, address the stuff that's going on inside your mind and your body if you have trauma. Case in point, I had a client yesterday who said, I tell myself I'm going to be calm, but then right after I say that, my body starts feeling anxious. Your mind and your body have a very distinct relationship with each other. And if you've had trauma, there's usually a very disconnected or disjointed relationship. A lot of people run away from their feelings, they stay busy to avoid their feelings, and you feel things in your body usually. What do we say when we have a gut instinct or when I sense red flags? Most of the women that I talked to sensed gut instinct wise that something was off with their ex, but they didn't have any hard concrete evidence yet. So you're going to feel things in your body, so you need to be working with a professional that's going to help you see your belief systems more clearly than you can. It is quite often so common to be so numb or disassociated from the problems in your life, and people disassociate and numb out by staying busy, by drinking, by eating, by sleeping with different people as a way to cope with the pain and to create a sense of survival. But when you have somebody in your corner, whether that's a coach, whether that's a mentor, whether that's a trained therapist, all of these people need to be trauma informed, meaning they're helping you from a mind body perspective and not just working up here like cognitive behavioral therapy. It's invaluable because others outside of yourself are able to see your own blind spots more clearly than you can, your own hangups, your own belief systems, and help you work through that in a faster, more succinct, productive way rather than you trying to figure it out on your own. Another common thing that I get on my social media posts is I'm going to figure this out by myself. Hyper independence is a trauma response, and it's a way of trying to regain a sense of control. It also, unfortunately, creates a lot of loneliness. And I've seen this in my own professional work, working with women who've been trying it on their own. You can often feel like even more something's wrong with you because you've been reading the books, you've been watching YouTube videos, you've been going to therapy and talking about your past or talking about your ex. You're working out, you're doing all the right things, but you still feel like you're not getting it. And feeling like you're not getting it just adds fuel to the storyline, your BS, your inner bullshit, your belief systems of something's wrong with me. So you have to really, first and foremost, if you're going to overcome your loneliness, address the belief systems that you have about yourself. 9 times out of 10, when somebody enrolls in Break the Cycle, their story inside is that something's wrong with me. I am clearly unlovable. They don't wake up in the morning saying that, but they go to work and they hear a coworker or coworkers talking about their husband or a vacation that they just went on, and they immediately feel like an outsider. Or they go to their kids' PTA meetings, or and they're the only parent that's by themselves. And they see they're sitting in an audience with or a classroom with a sea of parents holding hands, or they go to the grocery store and they see couples walking together, holding hands, and they immediately feel like, am I ever going to have that? All of this thinking perpetuates that feeling of separation. It's said that the thinking that we have 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day, 70% of those are repetitive thoughts. And 80 to 90% of the thoughts that we actually have a day are all negative. So it becomes habitual, your belief systems. It becomes like an unconscious thing that you play out. So if you are going to try to overcome this on your own, it will often feel very frustrating and it will take a long time because you're often so close to the problem that you can't see the forest for the trees, which is why it's so imperative to hire a professional, work with an expert who can help you see more clearly, and work with somebody who's trauma informed, who is going to give you evidence based tools so that you can start to rebuild this relationship with yourself and your feelings and learn how to emotionally regulate when you feel triggered by parents at a PTA meeting or seeing a couple or seeing somebody that looks like your ex. How to overcome those triggers and stay emotionally balanced and centered in a centered place, filling your own emotional cup. So that's the first thing, is overcoming your belief system. The second thing that you need to be working on, and these are going to work in tandem, is widening your comfort zone, your window of tolerance. So if you've been hurt a lot in the past, your tendency may be to shut off people because on an unconscious or conscious level, it doesn't feel safe to expose yourself and let people in because you could run the risk of being hurt again. And so people will isolate, they will keep people at arm's length, they'll unconsciously choose narcissistic partners because they believe subconsciously that they're unlovable. And a narcissistic or an unavailable or addicted partner will never truly be able to get close to you because of their own issues. So, in some level, if you have this pattern in your love life and you never get close to the partners that you fall in love with, it's because on some level you are uncomfortable with that level of closeness. And this is usually goes back to your belief systems, it goes back to the trauma that created those belief systems. And your body, on some level, doesn't feel safe letting that in, right? So, widening your window of tolerance works in two different ways. And the two main ways that we widen somebody's comfort zone here is actually by embracing their loneliness. A lot of people come in, they're afraid of dying alone. They're afraid of what if I attract another narcissist and 10 more years gets by in my life and now I'm 60 or 70 and I still don't have anybody. My mom died alone. My parents were miserable at the end of their life. I don't want that to be my story. And sometimes people will, like I said before, try to fill their fear of loneliness by staying chronically busy or busying themselves with chaos in friendships or chaos at work or chaos with their kids, like getting sucked into a lot of drama. And all of this kind of keeps their focus off of themselves so that they don't have to face what's going on in here. And the longer you avoid yourself, number one, the longer you'll stay stuck. Number two, the more likely it is that you're going to attract somebody who is going to avoid you in one way or the other. So, embracing your loneliness looks like creating space to feel the loneliness, to be alone, to have unstructured time, to give yourself permission to relax. One of the exercises that we do, and this is in week 2 of our work together, usually when clients are relatively new, is taking themselves on a date, and not just a date that I'm going to order Thai food and hang out in my sweats on my couch and binge watch a show on Netflix. This is a date where I'm going to get dressed up. I am going to go to a restaurant that I love. I'm going to go by myself. I'm going to make a reservation party of one, and I'm going to sit there undistracted without my phone, without a tablet, without a book, without anything. And I'm just going to be in the moment and see what comes up for me and see what emotions happen so that I can learn to regulate my own emotions and stay in the present moment. So, a lot of people that we work with, when they encounter this exercise for the first time, are terrified because of their belief systems. There are a lot of people, you may be watching this right now, that know what you need to do, but you're not doing it because of the stuff that's going on in your psychology. People's fears around taking themselves on a date, or what if I look stupid? What if people judge me? What am I going to look like? And this is all just a reflection or a projection of how severely they judge themselves, and how much they truly believe that they're unlovable. So you widen your window of tolerance by learning how to embrace being alone. And if you've embraced being alone for a long time, the other thing that it's a double-edged sword. So you want to embrace being alone, but you don't want to be too comfortable there because then that becomes a wall that you create that keeps people out. So the other side of widening your comfort zone or your window of tolerance is by being more vulnerable with other people, putting yourself in vulnerable situations in the context of a relationship. That could mean having a very honest conversation and revealing something shameful about yourself. That could also be taking yourself on dates, right? A lot of people, when we give them this exercise of taking themselves on a date, they feel extremely vulnerable because that's something that they've never done before. They've been living for everybody else. They don't know what they like anymore. So being vulnerable is the path, the window to overcoming your loneliness and creating more connection in your life. Is it easy? No, it's very challenging, especially if you have past trauma and past hurt, which is why it's so important, going back to step one, to work with a trained trauma informed professional who's going to help you overhaul your inner belief systems or your inner bullshit stories that you're telling yourself that keep you making the same choices, that keep you seeing the same limiting possibilities, that keep you in the same behavior. So then the next step would be widening your window of tolerance by embracing that loneliness, doing things that are out of your comfort zone, and then learning how to emotionally regulate yourself in the moment and creating new, more empowering stories about yourself. And then finally, taking this out into the world and being vulnerable with friendships. A lot of times we work with people who, when they enroll and break the cycle, they have certain relationships with friends, even their family, and as they go through the process of healing their trauma, they really start to have this awakening. They start to see things in their life a lot differently. And they see possibilities where previously there were none because the trauma was blocking their perception. And they may find that friends that they once had are no longer serving them anymore. So, having honest, vulnerable conversations around conflict, starting a business. We have a lot of people who start businesses, buying their first homes together, taking solo vacations together, dating again. So, widening your window of tolerance has to first start with you and how you are, your relationship with yourself and your relationship with loneliness and being willing to step out of your comfort zone. And here's the key: consistently. This can't be like a once a year or once a quarter thing. It has to be daily and it has to be weekly. Why? Because the trauma and the patterns that you have in your life are literally wired into your brain through the neural networks, the neurons in your brain. And the neurons in your brain have a mirror to the way that you feel feelings and your emotional reactions in your body. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says that trauma is not like a memory or flashback. Trauma, unhealed past trauma, comes up as an emotional reaction to a present day situation. So if you are avoiding your life or you're avoiding people or you're avoiding taking risks because you're afraid of what could go wrong, you're basically living in fear and you're allowing that trauma to rule your future. If you've told yourself the story, I'm never going to date again because it's not worth it, connection isn't worth it, I'm just going to be alone, I don't really need that many friends. What you're basically doing is making a decision based on fear. And initially, that might buy you some protection. But what I found to be true is that no matter where you go, no matter where you move, how much you try to control your life, life is always going to find a way to give you the trigger that you need to help you overcome that trauma that you keep stored and buried and pushed down. So, just to quickly recap how to overcome your loneliness after your ex and really how to overcome the loneliness that you have probably overall, right? You probably felt really lonely in the relationship, and the loneliness and the belief systems of something's wrong with me or I'm unlovable are likely what led you to that person. Your stuff co created that relationship with that person. So you can't continue to blame your ex. It's an easy way out. You have to take responsibility for what's going on within me that is causing me to be a match. And then you have to actually do something about it. It's not enough to have an insight when you have 40 or 50 years of pattern behavior. You have to actually take action and implement a proven plan strategically on a consistent daily basis to see results. So you need to work with somebody who's going to help you overcome your belief systems by healing your past relational trauma, working with a trauma informed coach, a mentor, a therapist, somebody who's going to keep you accountable and keep you out of the stories of your past and keep you driving forward to the change and the results that you want and keep you accountable by being willing to call you out on all the ways that you are sabotaging yourself and calling you out from a place of love and compassion, not a place of judgment or criticism, but giving you the tools that you need to start rewiring up here and in here. So that's the first thing is overcoming your belief systems or your inner bullshit. And if you have beliefs like something's wrong with me or people aren't safe or I can't trust myself, you are likely going to isolate, right? And isolating and keeping yourself in a small rut in your life is only going to perpetuate the feeling of loneliness. The second thing is widening your window of tolerance, embracing your loneliness, doing things out of your comfort zone that scare you, and they're going to put you smack dab in the face with a feeling, the belief of something's wrong with me, so that you can learn how to manage that feeling and work through it productively rather than avoiding it by being busy, distracting yourself on your phone, eating your feelings, drinking your feelings, sleeping with somebody that you don't know very well to get rid of the feeling, whatever that case may be, for whatever your coping skill of choice is. The second way is widening your window of tolerance with others, deepening existing friendships and relationships by being honest, by being vulnerable, by being willing to show your belly, by being willing to be shameful and expose yourself, and then creating new relationships. And that could be through dating. If you've taken a long break from dating because of fear, it could be creating new friendships, exposing yourself, right? Whenever you take risks and you're vulnerable, you're always going to feel uncomfortable on some degree. And the key with vulnerability is understanding that you are likely going to get hurt again. But if you've been working on the stuff inside of you, if you've been working on healing your trauma, if you've been emotionally regulating yourself, the beauty is that when you do get hurt again, when somebody nicks a wound from the past, you don't immediately shut down and stay shut down, and you don't turn to unhealthy coping. You're able to overcome that negative feeling in a very productive, healthy way and get back onto the track of soaring and really believing in yourself and creating deeper and deeper connections with others. So, if you've found some insight in what I've shared with you today and you realize I'm sick and tired of keeping myself stuck, I'm sick and tired of enrolling myself into failure by continuing to avoid dating or people or myself and working and distracting myself. And I've already done a lot of talk therapy and it gave me some insights, but I'm still choosing poorly and I still feel stuck, and you're single, divorced, you're professional, you're successful in your career, you've got other areas of your life that are working really well for you, but your love life and your relationships are a constant source of sadness, then I invite you to book a free breakthrough call and go to bethanydotson.com/talk. This is going to give you 45 minutes with myself or somebody from my team to talk about the patterns in your love life. And we're going to get you super clear on what's really holding you back. We're going to ask you some very honest questions that are designed to get the wheels turning and to give you this kind of aha moment or this awakening, this breakthrough. It's why we call it a breakthrough call. If we feel that we can help you overcome the stuff in the way, whether that's your past trauma, your codependency, all the unhealthy coping mechanisms that you've laid it out like a red carpet that keep people out of your life, then we'll talk about what it looks like to work together and what the qualities are in somebody that is successful in actually overcoming the pattern. And then we'll invite you in to work together. And if at the same time we feel like something's better for you, maybe coaching isn't right just yet, maybe you need to do a few things first, then we'll give you those steps so that you have the next step to start moving forward and creating transformation and change and lasting results in your life. And you're not just reading about a narcissist or reading about codependency, but still feeling stuck. So if that's you, bethanydotson.com/talk. Have a beautiful day, and I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I've helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. what you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number three, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever, both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.